Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the juiciest celebrity drama the moment it explodes, and oh boy, did it explode today. If you haven't heard yet, Hugh Grant, the eternal British heartthrob from Notting Hill and 4 Weddings, was literally escorted off the set of ITV's Loose Women earlier this afternoon after what insiders are calling the most chaotic 5 minutes in the show's 25-year history. The trigger, a blazing row with panel favorite Denise Welch that started innocently enough over politics, spiraled into personal insults, and ended with Hugh storming out while Denise was still mid-sentence, shouting, "Don't you dare walk away from me, you privileged little man." Yes, you heard that right. The man who once played the bumbling charmer told Denise Welch to shut your gob on live television. Within minutes the clip was everywhere. Hugh Grant Loose Women was trending worldwide, and ITV had to cut to an emergency ad break while security stepped in. By the time the show came back, the remaining panelists were visibly shaken. Janet Street Porter was clutching her pearls, and poor Nadia Sawalha was trying to fill dead air with a broken bar. Let's talk about the weather, shall we? This is the kind of television moment people will be talking about for years, so let's break down exactly how we got here from polite chit-chat to full-on meltdown in under 6 minutes flat. It all began innocently when the Loose Women panel introduced Hugh as their special guest to promote his new dark comedy series about corrupt politicians. Everyone expected the usual charming, self-deprecating Hugh Grant we all know and love, the one who stammers adorably and makes self-aware jokes about his rom-com past. He started off perfectly fine, complimenting the ladies, saying how much he admired Denise Welch's honesty over the years, especially her openness about mental health and addiction. Denise beamed, the audience applauded, everything was rosy. Then host Charlene White asked a seemingly harmless question, "Hugh, your character is quite right-leaning in the show. Do you think politicians today are out of touch with ordinary people?" That's when the temperature changed. Hugh gave a wry smile and said, "Well, some politicians are out of touch, but let's be honest, some members of the public are out of touch with reality too, aren't they?" The audience laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. Denise, however, leaned forward and said, "What's that supposed to mean, Hugh?" And just like that, the fuse was lit. What nobody in the studio realized was that Denise had been vocal on social media only last night defending Keir Starmer's government against exactly the kind of upper-class sneering Hugh's comment echoed. She wasn't letting it slide, not on her watch, not on live daytime TV. Denise fired the first real shot. "Are you saying working-class people who vote Labour are out of touch with reality, Hugh? Because that sounds awfully like something your posh mates in Notting Hill would say over their organic quinoa." The audience gasped, then cheered, because Denise never holds back and they love her for it. Hugh looked stunned for half a second, then that famous smirk appeared. He replied, "Denise, darling, I grew up in Chiswick, not exactly eating caviar off silver spoons, and I went to state school for a bit, actually." Denise interrupted, "Oh, here we go. I went to state school for a term defense. Very original from someone worth £150 million. The crowd went wild. You could see Kay Adams trying to steer the conversation back to the TV show, but it was too late." Hugh's eyes narrowed and he said, "You know what, Denise? At least I don't make a career out of shouting my opinions on a show literally called Loose Women while pretending it's empowering." The studio fell silent for a split second, then erupted. Denise's mouth actually dropped open before she recovered with, "Excuse me? This show has given women a voice for 25 years while you prance around playing the same floppy-haired posh boy for 30. Hugh laughed bitterly and muttered, loud enough for the mic to catch, "Maybe if you spent less time on Twitter picking fights with Piers Morgan, you'd realize not everything is about class warfare, and that, ladies and gentlemen, was the point of no return." From there it descended into absolute chaos. Denise stood up, yes, actually stood up, and pointed at Hugh. "You come on our show, take our money, and then insult us? Who do you think you are?" Hugh, now fully in the zone, shot back, "I'm someone who doesn't need to scream to be heard, unlike certain people who mistake volume for personality." The audience was split, half cheering Denise, half stunned into silence. Producers were frantically signaling from the wings, but Hugh kept going, "And let's not pretend you're some champion of the working class, Denise. You live in a mansion in Cheshire, send your kid to private school, and cry on television for sympathy ratings." That was the gut punch. Denise's son is Matty Healy from the 1975, and she's always been protective of him. Her face went white, then red. she shouted. "Don't you dare bring my family into this, you absolute coward." Hugh stood up too, now both of them on their feet, and said, "Then keep mine out of your mouth." Security started moving in from the sides while Janet's street porter tried to physically pull Denise back into her chair. Charlene White was desperately saying, "We're going to a break, we're going to a break." But the mics were still live and the cameras were still rolling because nobody hit the emergency button fast enough. The last thing the nation heard before adverts was Denise yelling, "Get off our show then!" and Hugh replying gladly. As he ripped off his mic pack. When Loose Women returned after the longest ad break in ITV history, Hugh Grant was gone. Not just left the studio, gone. His publicist had apparently whisked him out a side door before anyone could stop them. The panel looked shell-shocked. Nadia Sowell, who started with a nervous laugh, "Well, a broken bar, that was a broken bar, different." Janet's street porter, never lost for words, simply said, "I've seen worse in the House of Commons, but not by much." Denise, still shaking with anger, refused to apologize on air. Instead she doubled down, "I will not sit here and be spoken to like that by any man, famous or not. If he can't handle a strong woman with an opinion, he shouldn't come on a show called Loose Women." The audience gave her a standing ovation. Within an hour, Hugh Grant himself posted on X, formerly Twitter, "Lesson learned, never appear on a daytime show where the loudest voice thinks she speaks for the entire country. Apologies to the lovely ladies who weren't screaming. Denise, good luck with the blood pressure." Denise quote tweeted within minutes, "Lesson learned, some men still can't handle women who answer back. Enjoy the manor house, Hugh."